Return of the Sunday recap, but it's Thursday, April 24th, and it's time for the NFL Draft. We're previewing it today. Going to talk about it. Kevin Polk and my guy, Michael Merlo, coming to you always. You can check out Burrows also. And Mike, you're a Giants guy, so this is really your draft, or your boys are getting fired here if this draft goes south. Your two guys, Shane and Dable. So how are you feeling? I know maybe not the easiest draft to get excited for before it, but you're getting Carter at 3, and who the hell knows after.
Yeah, happy about Carter. Mentioned that before we got on. I'm just not as hyped as I usually am for an NFL draft, especially with my team picking in the top 3. You would think I'd be stoked. You know who they're picking, though, at 3. I think that takes a lot of suspense out of it, obviously. You know who the first 3 picks are in general. I'm nervous, Kevin, because I think they're going to force a quarterback at some point in this first round, trading back into the first round, because they have not drafted one. And I think they're going to force one. And the name I think that keeps coming up the last couple of days now is Jackson Dart. And we could get into that because I'm not a big fan of trading future assets, a future second-round pick, to move back into the first round to get him when there's a chance you need that pick next season to move up in the draft for an elite prospect. But I don't know if these guys that are currently making the decisions are going to be making the decisions next season.
Well, that's what's tough about the Giants situation is we can sit here as fans and say we don't want them to give up future assets, but obviously Shane and Dable have an understanding of if this team stinks and we don't give them a real long-term plan as to why we should be kept, meaning quarterback, then they're in a lot of trouble. Now, my question with the Giants, though, is if you do trade in for a guy like Jackson Dart, right, and the development is as slow as we kind of all expect it to be with these quarterbacks. I don't think any of us are sitting here saying these quarterbacks are going to be day one guys, but what happens, like, if you're through 13, 14 games with Russell Wilson and you're not doing well? Is Dart just going to start playing? Is he going to start playing if you start 2-5? How do you save your job when you already kind of have your starting quarterback in Russ? Because while I don't love Russ and I don't love anyone in the Giants quarterback room, I'd venture to say he's better than any of the guys they can get tonight or tomorrow on the first day of the season.
Well, and here's another question off of that. Does Brian Daboll get the chance to coach Jackson Dart in a real game?
Exactly.
Right? If the Giants start the year off 2-10, which, by the way, the schedule, I mean, the opponents they play are absolutely brutal. I mean, it's a brutal schedule. So having a terrible season here is not off the table. But let's say they start 2-10 and you're still going with Russ or Jameis. Jackson Dart may not even start a game for Brian Daboll. That's, I think, the even bigger issue with saying we're going to trade back into the first round. If Dart falls to 34 and that's the pick, then that's the pick. I'm okay with taking a swing with that second round pick, not trading it and trading future assets. You want to take Milroe there? I know we discussed Milroe last night over text. Take a shot there. That's fine. But again, a future second, I would not do that to go back into the first round, and that seems to be the price for most of these trades.
I also feel like Dart is just an egregious smokescreen. I think you mentioned this to me last night, but we didn't hear nothing really significant about Dart and the Giants for 3 months of this process. And now, week of the draft, it's all we're hearing is Dart and the Giants. The Giants love him. They think he's a perfect fit. He'd be great with Dable. That's all we hear now. Shane's son is posting highlight reels on Instagram. I mean, it feels a little too sudden and so much at once. I think they want Sanders in the trade back scenario or the trade in scenario. And what have we seen this week for these two quarterbacks? We've seen everybody rave about Dart. We've seen everybody rip on Sanders because I do think one of Pittsburgh, the Giants, or the Rams are trying to get Sanders to slip to them. Because think about it, for Pittsburgh and the Rams, whether you like the character of Sanders or not, whether that stuff's true, how often do they get a player this good, a quarterback this good in the first round? They don't, because they always win. And I think the Giants want the opportunity to trade back in and get him.
Well, I'm going off of what we saw, especially from Tom McShay yesterday and his podcast, talking about how, obviously we know about the meetings that didn't go well. You had posted a video. He just was unprofessional and too cocky in those meetings that Sanders had with some of these teams. And apparently the meeting with Daboll and the Giants did not go well. Now, again, is that the Giants putting that out there for exactly what you just said? I don't know. I think when you hear too much about a certain player and like the Giants with Dart right now, it's a little fishy because he didn't even take a top 30 visit with the Giants, Kevin.
Mm-hmm. And the Giants did all those visits with Sanders. If you knew you didn't like his personality, I think you find that out on the first meeting.
Well, I think there's some tension in the room where there are a certain group of people in the Giant front office that says to themselves and says to the rest of the room, hey, like, we need to take more of a look at Sanders. And then you have whoever's against him saying, no, we're good. We don't need to. And from what I've read, it's more of the front office saying we need to take a closer look at Sanders. And it's Daboll who's saying, no, we're good. I don't want Sanders. So I don't know what to believe.
I have no idea. And you can't believe really any of it. The only reason I did in my mock draft yesterday a Jackson Dart trade up is I think it's tough for the Giants to justify trading from, pick 34 in the second round all the way up into the teens to jump the Steelers for Sanders or for whoever QB2 is going to be. I don't think it's as tough to justify than trading to where I had them at 28 with the Lions to get Dart. And I do believe one thing about these quarterbacks is there's the three guys, and then there's a massive gap, and then there's the rest of the guys. And that includes Milroe and the rest of the guys. So I'd be shocked if people were actually going into this draft with Dart or Sanders outside of their top three quarterbacks.
Now, I had seen, and I meant to pull up your mock draft and didn't, and I have it right now. Do you think there's a chance that Dart goes ahead of Sanders?
There's always a chance, especially with what we've heard about Sanders. If it's true, there's definitely a chance. And Dart has some traits that you like more than Sanders. And I love the offense that he played in college. But I think it's going to be Sanders off the board first. Because there's no way that we went from top 3 pick for 10 weeks to now he's going to be picked close to 30.
But
that's crazy to me.
In a weak quarterback draft, it can. I mean, the more information you get on these guys, I mean, yes, it was almost by fit that we're talking about Sanders as a top 3 pick, but when you look at the big boards of a lot of these, draft experts, it's not like he was a top 10 player.
No, he's not.
Sanders was never a top 10 player, so I don't think it's crazy that he falls closer to 30. I don't.
And I think when I'm looking through the mock drafts and stuff, and I was doing my one last week where I had Sanders falling out of the top 10. It was the first time. I think it was last Monday I put it out. And I've had Sanders outside of the top 3 now for over a month. I had the Saints taking him for a while. But let's run through the draft after the Giants pick and the Browns, because this is an oddly healthy moment in the league for quarterbacks. Like, I think every team is in a place that they like to where they don't have to push the agenda in the draft and really go after something, because you have obviously Tennessee, Cleveland, Giants need it, but Cleveland, they are such a mess in the quarterback room that they're just going to wait another year here. I think Stefanski and Berry have job security because they got extensions last season, but
right.
New England with May, Jacksonville and Lawrence, Raiders just got Geno, Jets just got Fields, Panthers aren't replacing Bryce Young this year. Saints need a quarterback, but they could wait. So if they decide not to go with him, then you have Caleb Williams is the quarterback for the Bears, Purdy, Prescott, Tua. The Colts just signed Daniel Jones. They have Anthony Richardson. They're not looking at a quarterback. You have Penix, Kyler, Burrow, Darnold, Baker, Bo Nix. And then Pittsburgh is like the next spot. So it's not like there's actually teams from there's one team from the Giants to the Steelers that could use a quarterback, and it's New Orleans, and it sounds like they're not going to take one.
And it sounds like they're completely out on them. That meeting also went poorly.
Yeah, and when's the last time that we looked at a draft and said 30 of 32 teams have a starter that I think they're in some way excited about right now? That's the first time I think I've ever seen that.
It is kind of crazy. I mean, there's three teams. There's three teams,
Yeah.
right, that are saying to themselves, we need a quarterback, but we're not. Four teams: Steelers, Browns, Giants, Saints.
And
All
I mean,
need a quarterback.
And we'll call it 4 out of 31 because obviously the Titans need one, but they're getting the guy they want.
Right. So after 8:30 tonight, they don't need a quarterback.
Exactly.
What do you think? You said you texted me yesterday he's the worst first overall quarterback of our lifetime.
Yeah.
And he's not worth the first overall pick if we're going based on who's the most talented player in the draft, because the two guys after him are. But is that true? Like, who's the last guy that you would say is close to being the worst first overall pick?
Yeah, I'm pulling it up right now because just out of prospect level.
Yes, prospect level, not what they've done in the league.
Like, obviously Bryce Young hasn't been the greatest, but I think he was better prospect than Ward is. I think Stroud was that's what's weird about this class is, like, I think Stroud, I think Richardson were both better prospects than Ward also. But you go, I mean, Caleb, Bryce Young, Trevor Lawrence. Stop me when you think there's a name.
Yeah.
That Ward was a better college player then, because the list is really long. It's Bryce Young, Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow, Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, Jared Goff, Jameis Winston, Andrew Luck, Cam Newton, Sam Bradford, Matthew Stafford, Jamarcus Russell, Alex Smith, Eli Manning, Carson Palmer, David Carr, Michael Vick. You got to go back to the 90s where I'm just not sure, like, was Tim Couch a better prospect than Cam Ward? I don't know. Jeff George, was he a better prospect than Cam Ward? So in our lifetime, the 1-1s have been Heisman winning, elite level quarterbacks, whereas Ward has just not been that guy in his college career.
And again, like, when you talk about guys like, oh, this guy's pro ready, this guy just looks like he fits the part. Like Goff was a good college player, but I mean, was he a Heisman finalist?
No, he wasn't. He was, he was good at Cal. He was better than Ward, but
like, Ward never felt like that. Especially before the season started, and not even in the beginning. I mean, it was still the talk was Sanders.
Yep.
In the beginning of the college season.
And it was Sanders and Milroe. And crazy enough, Ward is the all-time touchdown leader in college. He obviously had a sick career. He was not recruited because in high school he played in a wing T offense. He didn't throw the ball at all in high school. So he wasn't recruited for his game tape. But yeah, this is the worst. But what's crazy also is I think out of all those guys I just listed, Ward might walk into the best situation.
Is it?
I'm much higher on the Titans situation than everybody else because I think they're going to have a really good offensive line. And they just signed Tyler Lockett yesterday, so you have veteran receivers in Ridley, Lockett. Now we'll see if Burks can do anything as wide receiver 3. And you have a good room of running backs. And I think it's important. He might stink as a coach. We don't know yet. But Callahan developed Burrow. He's been responsible for a first overall pick that played 5 years of college that wasn't in the cards to start the season, So it's so Callahan's got some familiarity with this. His dad's a great offensive line coach there in Tennessee, and they have good pieces on the line. So they should be a pretty good situation for a first overall pick.
It's not like, I think when we talk about really great situations, we talk about the Bears, which ended up not being a good situation, but like prior to the draft, we're like, oh, this is the best situation a first overall pick a rookie quarterback's ever walking into. Same with the Vikings last season, which probably would have been true if JJ would have started. So, like, it's not on that. I don't think it's on that level prior to the season starting, but it's not, it's not an awful spot. And you have an offensive coach. You have an offensive line that will be developed.
Think about last year in Tennessee. How many games did Will Levis lose them?
A lot.
And that was, he lost them. Their first 3 losses of the season were sold because there was the meme every week, but he literally blew the game for them every week, the first 3 weeks. We were not saying that. And I was not a Justin Fields guy. I really have never been in the pros. We were not saying this, though, a year ago about the Bears. How many games did Justin Fields lose them that they could have won? So they didn't have, and there was even the debate from Bears fans. Should we keep Fields and draft, whoever else, Marvin Harrison Jr. or trade back, whoever you want to throw in there? But there was that debate. So Fields gave them a level of competence at quarterback which was not impressive, but Levis didn't give them any competence at quarterback at all last year. So Ward just managing the game, if he can come in and do that, that team might surprise a lot of people.
I mean, Will Levis was legit the worst. He was the worst quarterback. We would come on the Sunday recap. What we used to say, like he just shouldn't allowed to be play quarterback anymore. Like that's how bad it was. And
it was so bad.
And Callahan gets the blame for that in his first year. But Mason Rudolph would start games and it's like, oh, this is competent. This is, it's not terrible. I don't love the wide receiver room, but they had Lockett late last night, which was a surprise. But it's going to be interesting because, again, I like my team needed a quarterback, so I would have been okay with Ward, right? Like I would, all right, go get Cam Ward if that's who, the number one quarterback is. But it's tough to look at the quarterbacks that have gone the past few seasons and say, oh, I'm super excited like I would have been for those guys.
Yeah, exactly. There's out of the number one overall picks, takes for me at least since 2016 to find a guy that I wouldn't have been really pumped about getting, and that is Jared Goff.
Yeah.
So maybe Goff's the guy that Ward's on par with as a prospect in our lifetime. Maybe Bradford. I think Bradford was better at Oklahoma, actually. But maybe Jamarcus Russell at LSU. Yeah. But, I mean, how exciting was Young and Stroud and T-Law and Burrow and Kyler and Baker as prospects coming into the draft? They were electric prospects.
Even you had 3 guys last season that you were super excited about. I mean,
you had 5 guys last year that would have been the first overall pick in this draft.
Yes.
Bo Nix, I'm so confident. I'm a huge Knicks guy, but I'm so confident Knicks would have been the first pick in this draft.
Do you think JJ would have been the first pick in this draft?
JJ's the tougher one because he didn't do enough at Michigan for me to confidently say it. I think Knicks did enough, and it's weird because JJ went ahead of him, obviously, but
yeah,
I think Knicks would have been the first pick. I don't know if McCarthy would have. I had Knicks one spot ahead of McCarthy last year in the draft, so in the top.
So McCarthy definitely would have been the second guy in this draft.
Definitely, but he could have been the first. He definitely could have been the first.
Okay. It's just like it's wild the difference. It's wild.
He probably would have been the first because imagine sitting here after Michigan just went 13-0 and won the national championship, and the choices are McCarthy, the guy who led that team, or Cam Ward.
Well, I remember when he first, when we were having the discussions about him, for me at least, I was like, oh, he should stay a year. He should absolutely stay a year. And it wasn't even a question for him that he was coming out. And then he just shot up, and everybody's like, no, this guy's going to be a high pick. He probably will be a top 10 pick. It was the 10th or the 11th pick. So that was a crazy rise, at least in my eyes.
Yeah, it was. He shot up big time. He had a great combine, great pro day, everything. But the quarterbacks in this draft are weird. And I wonder how much are we overrating guys or underrating guys because of the position they play in this draft? And I just don't know. It's the questions with a lot of guys in this draft for me is how much do we overrate or underrate them based on their position? This is a weird draft class. Very weird.
Well, I want to talk about how you value these positions, because I think you have a good chance that you're going to have a tight end and a running back here in the top 10. You have Warren in the top 10. You're going to have Genty. From everything you've heard now in the top 5, you have him at 5 to the Jags. Mm-hmm. I want to what's that switch up? Not going defense. They're probably not trading Trayvon Walker now because that was a rumor. As we got into this draft process that he was available. So if you're not going to take Graham, you got to keep something on that defensive line. You're going to take a back here. I don't know if I love that. I am not a guy that takes running backs early, but we know this.
Yeah, we know that. We both agree with that. I would not take Genty if I was Jacksonville. I'm taking Jalen Walker from Georgia, who is becoming my favorite defensive player in the draft, or Mason Graham, who is my highest rated defensive player in the draft, besides Carter. Yeah. But I think those are the picks that they should be going with. However, I think that the GMs, especially you look in the top 10, you have Gladstone's a first-time GM. You have Darren Muji's a first-time GM. You have these guys that are probably looking to come in and just say, let's secure a starter and an impact player instead of maybe screwing something up in the trenches or getting a guy that, there's a few skill players that I think when you have a coach that you believe in, like Liam Cohn offensively, then you can say, this guy's going to be good, so it's a safe first pick for me.
Like, this guy's going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year as long as he's healthy.
Exactly. The fans, the fan base, and the organization is going to be happy with me because we're going to sell a load of Ashton Jeanty jerseys. He's going to run like crazy in his rookie year. We have a good enough offensive line. It'll make Trevor Lawrence look better. And it just has it feels like it has less of a risk than taking the defensive tackle who doesn't contribute in year one, and then your team goes 4-13 and you're kind of getting ripped for it.
Now, this isn't the way to build a team, of course. I understand what you're saying, like the optics of it for the GM in Jacksonville or Muji, and I think it's less with Muji. I want to talk about Warren in a second, but like this team, if it's going to help Lawrence and make Lawrence look better, that's like the only thing I would say, okay, you know what? You're doing it for your quarterback, a guy that needs to prove that he's worth this contract, and you sort of need to see that he's worth this money to go forward. That's the only good reason there. But with Warren, like, I don't know. And I'm not for taking like we've seen tight ends fail in this spot here in the top 10. He sort of feels different. He sort of feels like that prospect that you take him and you put him next to Garrett Wilson and the rest of those guys on that offense. And like, it's going to work. It's going to work. I don't know.
I like Warren a lot because he's a great blocker. He's a better blocker than Bowers was last year.
Yeah.
And that was a big thing on Bowers. Bowers overrated blocker, but I love Brock Bowers. He's definitely a better tight end than Warren. But Warren's a great blocker. And when you're running this offense, if you don't love the tackle that is available for you, I think they should take a tackle. That's me. I think they should take a right tackle.
Well, they like Membu.
And yeah, as I have in my mock, Membu's gone. Rich Samini, who is the best Jets guy through the Joe Douglas era with the draft. I don't know if that'll translate to the Muji era, but he got every pick right for the last 4 or 5 years in the first round. He hasn't taken Kelvin Banks. If Membu's gone, the tackle from Texas, who's never played right tackle in his life, but he moved there. So I think that they should take a tackle if they really like one, because I am an offensive line guy. But Warren, with the Fields offense that you're going to run, gives him the security blanket and a really good lead blocker on the outside, gives you that sixth lineman in a lot of scenarios. So I like Warren a lot. I think the issue for him getting drafted, if he gets picked by the Jets, and the issue for the Jets is going to be he probably catches 40 balls for 550 yards in his first year and maybe 3 touchdowns with the offense they're going to run with Fields. And the impact might be greater than that. But this is a fan base, I think, that's very tired of lack of offensive results. And that could be a tough one. I also, maybe this isn't how GMs look at it. This is a great draft for tight ends and running backs. Why would the Jaguars and Jets take them in the first round?
Yeah.
You can get a really good player at the same position in the second round.
Yeah, and if I had to, you have the fan hat on, and I almost have the fan hat on and saying, oh, they should take Warren. But when you look at it from, I think, the way Muji and Glenn have sort of run this franchise since they've taken over, it just sort of feels like this is going to be the boring offensive lineman or defense. I mean, defense is not rolled out here, and edge rusher is not rolled out here.
Yeah, I love Jalen Walker, as I said. If the Jets, I get three guys that they can take in this. Jalen Walker is the only defensive player I'd be happy with, not Mason Graham. I want Jalen Walker only.
Okay.
And then Membu, or if you're not going to take either of those positions, you're going to take Warren, and that's okay. You can live with it. But you're an offensive line guy. They've been trying to build this line for 15, 16 years now. All you need now is a right tackle, and you have one of the most promising young offensive lines in the entire NFL, and most of them are cost-controlled for the next few years. Why not just bite the bullet now and just get it over with, and Muji never has to worry about it again?
I was having this argument with a friend the other day because he had said, I don't want another boring offensive lineman here. And I was like, well, you draft a right tackle and hit on it. You got it. You have Olu on the other side. Like, you're good. Like, this is a strength now if you hit on it. And again, just based on the way Glenn, like, look at where Glenn comes from, right? Glenn comes from this high-powered, big style offense with a tight end and a couple of backs. But the thing that set everything up was the offensive line, and he knows that, and Muji knows that. And getting that tackle here, I think, is the most important thing, shoring up that offensive line and then moving forward with the skill players. I mean, they have skill players. They do have a couple of skill guys.
And how much, you literally have a starter and I'm not trying to be like blind faith fan. I think they have a starter at tackle, guard, center, and right guard that are very good and all under 26 years old. The only guy you have to actually extend, you have to extend Vera Tucker now, which we'll see what they do, but you only have to extend John Simpson. He's the only non-homegrown guy, but he's a great free agent pickup for Joe Douglas last year. Just get it over with. Just get the line done. Finish it. And you have a chance to do it tonight. And I hope that they can get Membu. I like Membu a lot, but I don't know if they're going to be able to get him. He's going to the Raiders in every single Raider mock draft now. And
that's their guy.
And that is a domino effect, I think, of Gentry to the Jaguars this week.
And what if the Patriots don't go tackle?
Then it's just the whole thing's just kind of going nuts after, like, what the hell's happening if the Patriots don't go tackle?
Because that's where the draft starts.
Yeah, and I do think they take Campbell. I'm very confident they take Campbell.
Okay.
They're another team. They have I don't think that their interior line, I don't think actually any of their spots in their line besides Onwenu are better than the Jets, but you have a group of guys. You have your starters at left guard, center, right guard, and right tackle. Why not just get the left tackle at 4?
There's no receiver that is worth a pick there.
No.
Either, unless they trade it back.
I don't think.
So what's the point? Their trade out spot if somebody wants to jump the Jags for Gentry, though.
They are. And
like if the Bears wanted to come up.
I've been thinking about it. What if the Giants or the Patriots, are they better off? Giants are in a little bit of a different situation because they still need the quarterback, but are you better off trading for an absolute haul from pick 4 or pick 3 all the way back to 15, 16, 17 for a team that really wants to get up there for Carter or one of the top tackles or Gentry, and they're just saying, screw the future, we want to go win now and make this move, and you recoup picks not only this year but next year? The Patriots could still get a good tackle later. That's where there's depth. There's not depth at the positions that they're going to get it at. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how the GMs decide to go about this tonight.
Did you see this rumor? I believe it. Did you see this rumor? If the Giants are taking Carter. Carter knows the Giants are taking Carter.
Yeah,
and the Giants know they're taking Carter. So this is off, like, completely off the table. But if the Giants did not take Carter with 3, that the Patriots and the Eagles would have a blockbuster trade ready to go, A.J. Brown and picks to the Patriots at 4, and the Eagles, because the Eagles are obsessed with Abdul Carter. Like,
and he loves Philly,
and he wants to be there, obviously, but he's not going to want to be there when he puts on the blue and white jersey. He's going to be like, "Oh wow, like this is legit. Like, I'm the next LT." Great. So, but yet that rumor was like, I had seen. This Boston he was a Patriots reporter, and he called into their afternoon show and was like, yeah, like, I got this on a good source that if the Giants passed and he was there at 4, they would trade back A.J. Brown and picks to the Pats for Abdul Carter.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it. That's a long way to fall in the draft from 4 to 32.
But you get A.J. Brown.
In this draft, A.J. Brown will be the best player.
Yeah, you get A.J. Brown, you get your guy. Obviously, they've been flirting with that. They wanted to trade for him earlier in the offseason. Thank God it's not happening, because if Abdul Carter got there, that is worst nightmare scenario.
Yeah, that defensive line's already good enough, I think.
Yeah, like, we're good. We don't need that to happen.
Then the Giants should definitely not draft the quarterback because he will die in the first.
Yeah, it'd be done. He'd be done already. That's it.
How do they? I mean, I'm looking at these other teams. How do they even get themselves to a contention level in that division that keeps their jobs? The Giants. They're so much worse than Dallas, and Dallas is so much worse than Philadelphia and Washington.
See, I don't think they're so much worse than Dallas. I think we'll look at it after this draft.
Yeah.
I don't think the Giants are so much worse than Dallas. I don't. They're
well,
so
now
much
that
worse
Dallas
than
got rid of
Philly.
McCarthy, Dallas might stink too with Schottenheimer.
They're definitely far from Philadelphia and Washington, no doubt, not even close. But I think you add Carter here. And like again, I'm excited about Carter. Like I'm like, oh crap! Like they're getting Carter. Like I'm pumped.
Yeah. You should be excited about Carter, stud edge rusher.
I think what he has to do, Shane, to save his job is they have to win like 7 games with this brutal schedule, and he has to go to management and say, "Look at the guys that I've drafted. I drafted freaking Abdul Carter."
And then
the list
is over after those two.
And then you go through the fines in the second round.
Robinson.
But you
Evan
have
Neal.
he goes up and says, I have cornerstone guys here. Like I have franchise level players, Hall of Fame gold jacket players here. And I don't know if it's enough, but that's what he has to do.
Starting to sound like Gettleman a little bit.
The gold jacket. That's where I got the term from. It's
Yeah.
gold jacket. Is Ashton Genty a gold jacket guy?
No, I don't think so.
He's not a Saquon Barkley gold jacket guy.
This is the first time I've probably ever looked at a draft. And again, I don't want to knock the class because there's a lot of really good players on the second and third day where there usually aren't. But this is the first time I've looked at the top of a draft and said, I don't know if any of these guys are Hall of Famers.
Not even Carter or Hunter.
And sometimes I'll say, I think this guy's going to be, and he stinks in the NFL. And vice versa. I think this guy's not going to be, and he becomes a super, like Justin Jefferson, I thought was going to be the most average wide receiver 2-3 in the league. And he's a Hall of Famer far and away. So it could be anyone. I don't know anything, but
not even Carter or Hunter. Like if you had to put money on guys, those would be them. But
no, and I could be totally wrong about that. They could be superstars. Hunter's got a chance if he's good at corner and good at wide receiver to have a Hall of Fame career without being great at either.
See, the problem is for me with Hunter is I just feel like he's more of a risk. Like I think you're getting when you draft Carter, like I do think you're getting obviously not to this level because he's an elite player, but a cornerstone like a Myles Garrett as pass rusher. Like you're getting that guy where you're like, oh, we're facing Abdul Carter this week. Like you're game planning for him. Again, not on the level of him. Hopefully one day he is, but you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like you have a better chance of hitting on that than you do at Hunter at 1 or both or 1.5 of his positions.
Yeah, I think that he's got to be that guy if the Giants draft him tonight, which they're gonna. He has to be a game wrecker. Carter.
And I have not had a confidence in a pick, and it's not because of the Giants. It's just because of the prospect. Like I've never been more confident in a guy that is going to hit. Like he's going to hit.
Yeah,
there's no doubt. I have no doubt in my mind.
To your point on Hunter, I agree because think about how many hours go into becoming the best wide receiver or the best corner. Now you have to split it, and the risk of injury just goes up so much playing both sides. I'm rooting for him. I'd love to see him do it.
Well, he's a transcendent player. He makes the Browns must watch next season because you want to see what this guy has to do. I don't think it's possible, to be completely honest with you. And let me ask you this question. What does he have to do to justify the pick? Like, let's just say he's a really great wide receiver. Not maybe just outside the top 10. Is that worthy of the second overall pick? Let's say he's the top 10 corner and he's not playing much offense because he just couldn't handle it. Is that worthy of the second overall pick? Like, what is my question is, what does he have to do to make it worth it for them?
Well, it's tough because in 5 years, we'll never look at him with the context of this draft because he might end up being the second best player in this draft or the second best player in this first round, but not being one of the best corners or receivers in the league. But I guess he's just got to at least be a building block part of the turnaround in Cleveland. Because if they turn this thing around and Hunter's one of the 5 best players on the squad, nobody will care. And he'll be another guy, big jersey sale guy, big popularity guy.
Always be chasing those expectations that they had.
He always
when
will
they
be.
drafted him. That if he doesn't live up to some of this.
I think he could be the best at his position on either side of the ball, but playing both, it makes it tough to say that he'll be the best at either of them because this guy's going to step off the field for 90 seconds after a full drive of corner, and he's going to go out there against, Derek Stingley or Sauce Gardner or Surtain and beat them. That's tough. Stamina-wise, for a normal guy to conceptualize that, for the most average human in the world, being myself, to conceptualize Hunter doing both, sounds impossible.
No, it does. And again, like how much offense, like what is he going to do? Is he going to play defense most of the time and then he's going to play offense? And the college game, listen, it's tough. It's not the NFL. I mean, these guys are grown freaking men. Like it is the difference. And he's not even playing in the SEC. He's not playing in the Big 10. He's playing in the Big 12. And before that, whatever conference they were in. I mean, you're not playing against NFL players every day.
No, you're not. I do think though that Hunter will be just a stud. Like I don't want. I hate to compare him to Ohtani because Ohtani's literally the best baseball player in the world.
Yeah.
So it's tough to say he'll never be the best football player in the world because that's always going to be the best quarterback. Yeah. That's just the way it's viewed. But I do think he's just going to be a total stud though because he was such a great receiver. He's going to play receiver for the Browns because Andrew Berry, I don't know if you saw this a month ago, what he said at the Combine about Hunter.
What did he say?
He must have known he was drafting him at the Combine because he went up on the podium and he said, he's our number one wide receiver. We think he's the best receiver in the draft, and we think that's where he should play. And he can play corner as the secondary. So Berry was fully transparent about what he thinks Hunter is as a player. I think he's going to play receiver in Cleveland all the time, and I think he's going to play passing downs at corner. I think he'll start trying to do it all, but eventually that's how it's going to end up.
Yeah, and again, how does that work? Like I'm fascinated to see how this works.
Yeah, it's going to be like, here's one thought is from changes here in the comments, just that the Cowboys are the best landing spot. You can be a wide receiver. You go up against teams like the Eagles and need a CB2. You throw it in there, and the Cowboys would definitely be a good landing spot for Hunter. But I just don't know how it's going to work. He's not going to play any special teams.
No.
So you're not going to get
is it based on fun? And we'll go off of that comment. Is it based on matchup? Like, hey, this week we don't think we need Hunter on defense. He's just strictly an offensive guy. Like, could it be based on matchup? And
it's going to be on the responsibility of the coaches heavily to put packages in on both sides of the ball that highlight him.
You almost need a coach for him, like just like a Travis Hunter coach on the sideline.
Think this one's for you?
Yeah, thanks, Joe. Yes, it is. It's the least hype draft of my lifetime, I think. So yeah, I think it's I'm not as hyped. Although, what's the year where Eric Fisher went one? Yeah, that's got to be the
least hyped.
That's got to be the least hyped. At least
there were literally no quarterbacks in the who were the quarterbacks taken in that draft? I think it was EJ Manuel.
Yes.
So
like you have a quarterback at the top, and then you have Hunter, who is an electric player. You have Carter, who many people think he was going to be a really good player, and you have Genty, who's an exciting wide receiver, and even Warren, who has a lot of hype heading into the NFL. So not the least, but up there.
Because I'm just looking now, but you had in 2013, you were already getting excited about the guys that were going to go in the next 2 years, like Jameis Winston, who you knew was the breakout, going to be the first pick when he's eligible. He wasn't eligible till 2015. But yeah, the 2013 draft, it's a brutal anticipation draft because the best players are Eric Fisher and Luke Jekyll. So you have two tackles going in the first two picks. Neither of them necessarily exciting tackles in college. Like they weren't. I don't even know.
What's an exciting tackle?
Yeah, I was just gonna say. Like, I don't even know what prospect ever would have been an exciting tackle. But then the next best players are Lane Johnson, who was the only guy that worked out in that entire top 10. Obviously, worked out pretty damn good for Philadelphia. But Deion Jordan, Ziggy Ansah, and then Barkevious Mingo were the other players. The first 7 picks of this draft are outside linebackers and offensive linemen. And one of them ended up being good. I mean, Fisher had a good career, but he wasn't ever a top 10 tackle in the league.
Not the first overall pick.
No.
It's so yeah, that's definitely one. That is definitely one.
Here's what Chiefs should trade out. I do think that one of those two teams at the end are going to end up in a trade out spot because you're going to have quarterbacks fall, you're going to have wide receivers fall, and those first few teams in the second round I think are going to be very aggressive. The teams at the top of it, the Browns, Patriots, Giants, I think they're going to be very aggressive in getting playmakers on their team because not only do the Browns and Giants need a little bit of job security, a little bit of an increased win total this year for sure, both of those regimes do, but the Patriots, I think there's a lot of pressure on Vrabel, and no one's really talking about it, and they need Drake May to be a stud.
I think there's going to be so much competition for the quarterbacks that are going to go in the second round, depending on who's taken late in the first, that I think one of the Giants or the Browns are going to have to trade up into that area of like 27 to 32 and get a quarterback. So I don't hate that. The Chiefs, yeah, with the Giants, I guess they would trade with the Browns too. You know, the Giants and the Eagles aren't going to make a trade, especially for a guy the Giants would think is going to be a quarterback at some point, a starting quarterback for their team. So, but I think you're going to see one of the Browns or the Giants come into the first round again late, not where the Giants have been mocked, where kind of you had them mocked late, and go get a quarterback.
And you had the Browns with Barry also last week talking about Milroe, like very openly again, talking about he's the only guy faster than Lamar, probably the only quarterback in the league faster than Lamar, he said, and he's a great runner. So there's clearly, I think there's some more love for Milroe than we're getting this week. The Milroe talk has really quieted down the last 3 days, which tells me teams want it to be hush-hush, and the Dart hype has just gone through the roof. I'm curious if any of these either of those two quarterbacks, Dart, Sanders, fall out of the first round.
Dart, Sanders fall out of the first round because of Milroe.
No, like they just don't. Only two quarterbacks end up going, and teams were actually as low as the lowest reports have been about Sanders and Dart or Dart.
I don't think so, because I think you're going to have teams get aggressive late. You're going to have teams get aggressive late and say they're going to go with these. They're going to go to the Browns or the Giants in the second round. So we got to jump the Browns and the Giants if there's a quarterback that falls that late.
Yeah. Here's another one from Changes. Luther Burden to the Niners if they trade back. Burden's an interesting guy for me because we do have him in the top 35. He forced the most missed tackles in college last year. He might be the best of these receivers with the ball in his hands. Will he be a first-round pick? Possibly. Definitely a chance. Will he go in the top 10 in the second round? He's definitely a top 42 pick in the NFL draft. Curious to see where he ends up, how he gets used. Could be like a kind of a Deebo Samuel after the catch guy. Really good, making men miss. Niners are an interesting team in this draft. Now a lot of people, as I had, but have them taking one of the D tackles, Graham or Nolan, Saleh back.
Yep, that's huge. That's huge.
Big time.
I feel like they have to take a tackle, though. At least
I think
they're going to consider it.
I think they should. Just for the sake of my mock, it was Mason Graham's there. They're going to take Mason Graham.
Right. Best player available. Williams is close to the end, if he's not at the end already. Not at life, of course, in his career. So I just think let's get ahead of this. Let's take a guy that could replace him, and you could develop him.
Yep, I agree. Niners are an interesting team in this. That whole 10 through 13 is going to be interesting to see what do the Dolphins do. They need a tackle. What do the Cowboys do? Cowboys, what do you think the Cowboys here? I mean,
I was just about to say they should take a receiver, depending on who's there. It's clearly a weak year.
They're probably going to get their pick of the litter at 12 too of the receivers. They get whichever guy they want.
So if McMillan's there, I would take McMillan.
Yeah.
But let's just say he's not. And Genty's gone as well. Do they like reach for one of those running backs like Hampton and take him at 12? I could so see them doing that.
They could, even though I am seeing that there's some teams. I forget where I was reading it the other day. It was last week. I read two different reports that said Hampton is like a top 10 player on some teams' boards, and a couple teams could have him as the first running back.
Really? Over Genty?
Yeah.
I can so see the Patriots being one of those teams, by the way. I mean, the Cowboys being one of those teams.
Yeah.
I can so see it. Like, the way they have drafted, it's just they're going to shock you. They're going to do something, and you're going to be like, oh, wow, that's crazy.
I wouldn't rule out Loveland either for any of these teams. Colston Loveland, who is probably the best receiving tight end in the whole draft, not a very good blocker, more of that slot receiver tight end that you see kind of like Travis Kelce gives you, Zach Ertz gave you. But this is going to be an interesting group in the middle of this draft. Really, after the Jets pick, I'm very fascinated to see where the next 5 or 6 teams will go.
Yeah. Very interesting. I'm not excited, but I'm excited. You know, like it's one of the better days of the year. It's one of the better days on the sports calendar for sure.
Yes.
So, I'll lock into it.
You'll be locked. All right.
You'll be locked.
I'll be locked on the Knicks too, though. We got Knicks playoffs tonight.
Or at least we have off with the baseball tonight. That's big.
That's huge.
What's your over-under? Can we set an over-under on how many picks you get right in the first round? You can set the number. You could set the line.
All right. In the mock, I think I'm going to get the first 4 right for sure.
Okay.
I'll give myself 2 of the next 3. So right now I'm at 6. Probably put myself around like 11.5.
All right, 11.5.
Maybe 10.5, 11.5. I don't know. I'm trying to think. It's like years past, they usually end up getting like 12 or 13, right? So,
all right, let's go 11.5. I'll take the over. I'll take the over. I'll go with the over on the 11.5. Unless you want me to take the under and you want the
No, I'm going to take a soft under, tight under. Okay. I think I'm going to take because I have no idea how teams are going to look at these guys.
Okay, I'll take a nice over on the 11.5.
Yeah, so we'll see. After those first 4 picks, I was really confident in my top 7. So for some reason, I can't imagine the Jets taking a tight end tonight. I have Warren there, but I can't, especially after last year when they passed on Bowers. I know it's a totally different thing.
Yeah.
I just don't think the first pick of this regime is going to be a tight end.
Yeah.
I think they're going to go in the trenches on either side.
So he'd be the third possible player.
Yeah. But we'll see. He's also, once again, he's a safe pick for a first-time GM and a first-time coach who have a lot of spots to fill in this draft.
Yeah.
All right.
Are we doing a Burrows tomorrow?
Yeah, probably Burrows tomorrow morning. We'll talk about it. But probably. Big week for the Mets. Big week for the Mets.
Yeah. Yeah. Best team in baseball.
We'll talk about it tomorrow. Best team in baseball.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching this. We'll have draft content, Instagram, TikTok, as we do every year on the draft, so make sure to check it out. We're going to be posting stuff all day, maybe 1 or 2 things from this, but mostly a couple different player profiles and things that you need to know about players that your team could possibly pick tonight. So thanks for watching. Enjoy the draft. Enjoy everything else going on, and we'll see you tomorrow.